So it's my pleasure to inaugurate this session, that is Fireside Chat on Future of Banking Industry. So for this, I would like to call on dais Mr. Dinesh Kumar Khara. Sir. Sri Dinesh Kumar Khara is a distinguished Indian banker who served as the chairman of State Bank of India from October 7, 2020 to August 28, 2024. He is a postgraduate in commerce from Delhi School of Economics and an MBA from the Faculty of Management Studies, New Delhi. He is also a certified associate of Indian Institute of Bankers. He began his career with SBI in 1984 as a probationary officer and held several key positions including Managing Director of Global Banking and Subsidiaries, Managing Director of Associates and Subsidiaries, and Managing Director and CEO of SBI Mutual Funds. He also served as the Chief General Manager of the Bhopal Circle and was posted in SBI, Chicago, for an overseas assignment. As Managing Director, he led the International Banking Group, Corporate Banking and Global Treasury Operation, as well as the non-banking subsidiaries of bank. During his tenure, he led the merger of 5 subsidiary bank of SBI and Bharatiya Mahila Bank with SBI. So I would like to call Anup Luharuka to felicitate, sir, with Uttorio and the memento. So now I would like to call next Mr. Partho Prathim Sengupta, sir. And our moderator for the session, Mr. Tamal Bondopadhyay, sir. Please give a round of applause. Okay. So first I would like to call C. Anup Luharuka to felicitate Dinesh Kumar Khara, sir, with Uttorio and the memento. Now I would like to call Mr. V.K. Nevatia, sir, to felicitate Mr. Partho Prathim Sengupta with Uttorio and the memento, please. Thank you. Next, I would like to call C.A. Subhan Chaudhary to felicitate our moderator, Mr. Tamal Bondopadhyay, sir. Now, let me give brief introduction of Mr. Partho Prathim Sengupta, sir. Sri Partho Prathim Sengupta is the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Bandhan Bank, a leading private sector bank headquartered in Kolkata. He assumed his role on November 1, 2024, succeeding Mr. Chandrasekhar Ghosh. Mr. Sengupta has nearly 4 decades of experience in banking sector and has held significant position in various esteemed institutions. He began his career at the State Bank of India, where he rose to the rank of Deputy Managing Director and Chief Credit Officer subsequently. And subsequently, he served as the MD and CEO of Indian Overseas Bank from 2020 to 2022. So give him a round of applause. Next, I would like to formally introduce our moderator, Tamal Bandyopadhyay. Sri Tamal Bandyopadhyay is an Indian business journalist known for his weekly column on banking and finance titled Bankers Trust, published in Business Standard, a leading Indian business daily. He had started his column in Mint, an Indian business daily by HT Media Limited. A student of English literature, a postgraduate from Calcutta University, Mr. Bandyopadhyay began his career in journalism as a trainee journalist with Times of India in Mumbai in 1985. Subsequently, he has worked with 4 national financial dailies, The Economics Times, Financial Express, Business Standard, and as a member of the founding team of Mint in February 2007, going on to serve as its deputy managing editor and later as a consulting editor till September 2018. He has authored 7 books and all have been non-fiction bestsellers. He has published a book of poems in Bengali, Anupam Menarashi. Bandyopadhyay is a contributor to the Oxford Companion to Economies of India. His book Pandemonium, The Great Indian Banking Tragedy, has bagged the Tata Literature Live Best Business Book Award, KLF Best Business Book Award, and Stock Literature Award. He is a recipient of the Ramnath Goenka Excellence in Journalism Award for Commentary and Interpretative Writing for the year 2016. Currently, he is a consulting editor of Business Standard, a business daily where he served as a deputy resident editor in Mumbai before joining Mint. He is also a senior advisor to Jana Small Finance Bank. Before this stint, he was an advisor at Bandhan Bank from August 2014. So give him a round of applause, please. So topic for the session is Future of Banking, a topic that is evolving faster than ever, reshaping the economies, our business, and the way we interact with the money. So banking is now no more about only transaction, it is about transformation from digital payments to AI-driven customers experience to blockchain and regulatory shift. So it is also having a massive change and innovations, unprecedented innovations, but the real question is, are we prepared for what is the next? So now I hand over the session to Mr. Tamal Bandyopadhyay to take it from here. Thank you, sir.
Very good afternoon and welcome to this big show, Fireside Chat. And one unsolicited advice, don't waste your time introducing the moderator. It doesn't look nice at all. So just name is fine. Okay, I'm actually overawed with this, flanked with these 2 gentlemen. And they have read out your biography. Of course, my bio was much more detailed than yours. So I'm sorry about that. But what he did not say is this gentleman, Mr. Khara, during his tenure as State Bank of India chairman, in 3 years, the bank's net, if you combine the 3 years net profit, that was bigger than the State Bank of India net profit since its inception in the current avatar, from 1955. So from 1955 to 2000, the combined net profit is less than what it happened during Mr. Khara's time. That is Khara Sahab. And this gentleman, Mr. Sengupta, he actually turned around Indian Overseas Bank. And at some point, I think probably your tenure or just after you left, in a price to book ratio, IOB was, of course, India's most expensive bank, globally probably one of the most expensive banks in terms of price to book. I mean, you are all CA, you know what I mean is this. So this is what we need to spend about 1 hour, 10 minutes or so till 1:30. We'll just talk about future of banking. I will speak the least. I'll give you some lines here and there. But before that, I just want to, and I promise that I will not talk more later. Just 2-3 minutes you give me to introduce the subject. Khara Sahab, you started your career in 1984 and, as a PO. You is 1987 as PO. I started career in 1985. Towards the end in Mumbai. But I had to come back to Kolkata for a family exigency. My father had an accident and he died. So few years I worked in Kolkata and then went back again. I'm talking about that was the time, and I was introduced to business journalism at that point of time. I used to work for Business Standard Kolkata, which is a part of the Anand Bazar group. Our salary was given in cash. So there was a gentleman called Mohi Babu, he was the cashier, dhoti-clad person, very amiable, nice, he used to sing Shama Sangit and all. And there will be a sponge, a wet sponge, he will count the notes and give it to us. One day, on that end of the month, the last day, we found that the counter was shut and Mohi Babu was not there. So we asked what happened, what is wrong? And we were told that Mohi Babu was coming from bank, carrying the money, and he was robbed at gunpoint. So that evening, we were given a notice that we have to open a bank account. If I'm not mistaken, this is 1992. Economic liberalization just happened. Manmohan Singh announced. New banks would come, but guidelines, etc., nothing. Narsimham committee recommended that new banks would come. Public sector banks have not felt threatened as yet. And of course, there is no technology, nothing. And that I quickly come to this thing. So very next day, I went to a bank. There are 3 Kolkata-based banks, right now 1, 2 of them got merged. So one bank just across the board on Central Avenue, and ABP is a passport to go anywhere. And this is just after the Diwali, before the Diwali rather. So I was ushered into the glass cabin of the branch manager. He was very happy, sir, please sit, etc., etc. And he said, come after Diwali. So, okay. After Diwali, I went, just after the Diwali. This time, this branch manager was not in himself at all. No politeness. He actually did not expect me. He literally said, just held my hand. He said, come out of my room. I said, what? Can you count the chairs? I did not know what to say. He said, there are 11 chairs and there are 13 employees. If everybody turn up on a given day, I don't have sufficient chairs to make them sit. You want me to open your account? Thank you. So message was very clear. I came back. I'm not getting my salary, 10 days over. So difficult, newly married. So one of my colleagues said that you go to this gentleman who's a very big trade union leader. And you go, he will get it done. This is another bank, second bank. I'm not naming the banks. I went there again. I was just about to walk in, somebody just pulled me out. I said, what happened? Shh, take off your shoes. There's a computer inside. I took off my shoes. There is indeed a computer inside. It's covered. I could not see, but it was covered, well covered. Then flowers, then joysticks. Then there was a lamp lighting. Literally, this gentleman was worshipping the computer. He listened to me. There are 3 telephones. These are all, I could see it now. 1 green, 1 black, and 1 red. He called up tons of, meaning many branches. Could not get anybody to accept that, open my account. And finally, he got in some other place which is neither close to my house where I was staying and not to office, so it did not work out. After an hour, so he gave up. He said, Tamal, I'm sorry, you could not do this. Then my boss in business standards said, what is the problem? I will get you in touch with the newly appointed chairman of yet another bank, the 3rd bank headquartered in Kolkata at that point of time. I went there. Post Diwali, cashew nuts, all kind of things I got, my tea, coffee. He listened to me, and then after 15-20 minutes, he said that he got up from his chair and he came on my back, put his arm with a lot of care, he put his arm around my thing. He said, Tamal, I'm happy to open your account, but if you listen to me, I would advise you not to open the account here. I said, sir, what? What happened? He said, then he got very emotional. He said, I am the chairman of the bank. And that time, if I'm not mistaken, he was also the chairman of IBA. It's now 2.5 months. My branch is at the basement. I have not yet got my checkbook. If a chairman of the bank is treated this way, I mean, I can imagine what will happen to you. So I have nothing. I came out, and next day, I opened an account with ANZ Greenless at that time, which got later merged with Standard Chartered Bank. And the money I needed to keep as a minimum balance was probably as much as the salary I was getting. So this is banking in 1992, 93, after economic liberalization, and you, both of you into banking and all. And as we speak, First of all, there is no question of going to the bank. This is my bank. I think everything is done from here. And second, on any given day, I mean, all of us, you and me, I don't know how many calls we get for FDs and opening an account and so on and so forth. So essentially, what was a seller's market now has become a buyer's market. There is no more glass cabin for the branch manager. And the banking has changed the heart and soul and the body. Right, sir? So from now on, it's all yours. I've introduced the subject. So why don't you have a little, first a few minutes, how do you see the change? If I'm wrong, correct me, both of you. And then we'll get to the specific subject, how things have changed and what are the changes we need more. Because everybody talks about the customer is the king. It's also on the Reserve Bank of India landscape now. I mean, RBI started talking about, respecting the customers and all. So, and banks exist for the customers. So we'll talk one by one. We have enough time. And time permitting, we'll take a few questions also. But before that, over to you, Kharasab.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much, Tamada. Well, you narrated your experience of Calcutta way back in 1985. That actually provokes me also. Incidentally, before I joined State Bank of India, I worked for National Insurance Company and I joined the National Insurance Company here in Calcutta. And the initial 3 months, we were having a classroom training at BBD Bagh, and just next to the post office, there was a big insurance company's office, and there we used to have the classes. And also the in-house training, on-the-job training in the divisional office of the National Insurance Company. I think my experience was also like that, if I may narrate. It so happened that just passed out from the college and landed here in Calcutta. And of course, as you mentioned that you tried to open an account, I also went to a bank which was Grindlays, which was there in BBD Bagh only. But that chap looked at me and said that you will not be in a position to open this account and maintain this account, better you go away. So I said, okay, fine, thank you. So that's how my journey started, and my experience was also likewise. I only want to corroborate on this particular aspect. Having said that, what you have articulated in terms of your challenge at the material point of time, there were actually that was a very different era, and that was an era where when it comes to the resources, either the technology or manpower, these are the two very critical resources. So those are the days when manpower resources were actually counted upon, and this was all very organized manpower through the trade union activities. We have, when we started our journey, we have done the manual banking. We, of course, went through the ledgers. We knew what the accounting system is. So it has got its own merits and demerits. There is no second thought. And also, the customer experience was actually a function of the people who are there in the branch, which also means that the culture which was different in different states, different cities, that was also defining the customer behavior. And that's why the banking was known as the branch banking. So from there, I'm reminded of the year somewhere in 91, 92, one of the wage settlement took place, and there it was decided that any branch which is handling more than X number of vouchers, 600 vouchers if I'm not mistaken, it will be put on to the mechanization. That is how the journey began. This was a journey for mechanized manual banking to standalone computing, and somewhere towards around 2000 this became from standalone computing to the centralized computing. And I would say that when it comes to merit of the manual banking, the generation of probationers or the officers or the clerk who joined the bank, they understood the accounting thoroughly. And today, when we ask our young officers or young colleagues in the bank, you are doing this transaction, what is the underlying, do you understand this? They only know which button to operate and which screen to go. So that is the flip side of this. That is something which I would say that, of course, in our effort to make it digital, this is the fallout which has happened. But nevertheless, one thing is certainly there. You rightly mentioned that it is no more a banking where it is actually the buyer's choice. It is no more at the discretion of the sellers. So, but then, of course, when it comes to 92, 93 was the time when these new private generation banks started coming in, and the banks could actually experience a scenario where they have to innovate in terms of product, they have to innovate in terms of processes, and maybe not at that stage, maybe a little later, the customer centricity became the hallmark. So that is something we have seen the transition of the banking. Having said that, I would also like to mention that the risk which were inherent in those days when it was a manual banking, as compared to that, the risks which are inherent in the banking today are significantly higher. Complexity of operations is significantly higher as compared to what it used to be during those days. And that is also partly because the economy has opened up, and though we don't have the full convertibility, but nevertheless, for all purposes, our economy is as integrated with the rest of the globe. And today, thanks to internet and thanks to today, the customer is not a customer of any country or any institution. The customer is a customer of the whole of the globe. It is not, they don't have a choice only of borrowing from a particular place. They have got a choice to borrow from anywhere across the globe. And today, when we start our day, first of all, we look at it, how the markets have behaved. And fortunately, when India opens up, already US has closed, East has already opened up, the early signs are already known. And even today, the gift city is also one of the major indicators which gives how the markets are reacting to the developments across. So I think those were the very different days, if I may say so. I think those were the days when, I think perhaps in the history, it is more of a history now. It is no more any more relevant now anymore. But nevertheless, there are always lessons to learn from the history also. So from that context only I was just talking about. But yes, of course, the banking has changed totally. And if I may say so, today we are looking at how can we have the customer experience, frictionless experience. How can we actually offer to the customer what is the next product he would like to buy before he even thinks of. So this is where we have reached, leveraging analytics, leveraging the mechanization, digital things. And so I think it's a paradigm shift. But most important aspect is that the people who run the bank, they have also undergone all these changes. They have also adopted, because I served State Bank for 40 years, so I can perhaps relate very well. We had the very old hands who were there in the bank, and they were in the habit of dealing only with the ledgers. So they started learning how to operate the computer. They started learning how to operate the mouse. So these are the things which today, if at all, this generation will not be in a position to comprehend as much. But we have seen this journey. And when we have seen this journey, it really means that it has become, banking has always been something which is where the human capital is very important. And today that human capital is something which has been invested well. And those who have invested in this human capital, they're in a position to reap the benefit of that. Today they need to invest not only in the human capital but also in the technology. Earlier they were only investing into the product design, etc., but not as much into human capital and the technology. Today it's absolutely required to invest into these things. And on the top of it, when we are raising capital, we have to raise capital from the sources where the expectation of returns are as comparable as it is with the best of the banks across the globe. So I think this is how the shift in the environment has taken place. And we never knew that B2B2C is a concept, but today B2B2C is a reality for the banking also, because we have got the network of the BC, CSPs, etc., so who are also helping us in at least carrying out the transactions. Again, it is also open to another risk component. So I think it's very interesting to really respond to Tamalda. Probably I can keep on speaking for hours and hours on this particular subject, but nevertheless, this is what the reality is.
Yeah, thank you, Kharsab. That's a journey looking back. So, Mr. Sengupta, again for you also, a little bit of nostalgia or anecdotes, and then we'll talk to the shift to the future, specific ways.
Thank you, Tamalda. So Kharas sir has just now shared his views, and also Tamalda has also shared. So let me add my experience. So I am just 3 years junior to Kharas sir. I joined in 1987. So I was posted in one branch in North Bengal in State Bank of India, which happened to be the branch of Imperial Bank of India. And the agent was, I think 10, 15 years back also, was an European. So when I joined there were big, voluminous ledgers. You really need good muscles to carry them from the front desk to the officer's desk and again back to the front desk for the day. And there was one staff who was known as Mr. Dhali. We used to call them Dhalida in Bengali. So he looked to be a person much above 60 years of old. At that time, the retirement age was 58, not even 60. So he looked to be around 72, 73, or maybe more than that, nearing his 80s. And he was always accompanied by his by his grandson. So one day he was acting as the messenger. So his task was to bring the ledgers from the counter to the officer's desk. But that task was in fact being done by his grandson and not by him. So one day I could not find his grandson. So I asked Dhalida, ekটু ledgerটা নিয়ে আসুন, bring that ledger. And immediately my next man, the person who was sitting to me, Sengupta Sahib, ei bhulta korben na. Don't make this mistake. I said, what happened? Sir, aren't you watching that he is bringing his grandson? And yes. This grandson is just following his grandfather to wait that when he collapses during carrying the ledger, so he will collapse during official duty and he will get a compassionate appointment. So I was really amazed of that. So one day I called Dhalida. Dhalida, you don't look to be 58. Na sir, ami to onek beshi amar boys. How come you are working in a public sector, a government institution more than this age? No sir, he was telling in Bengali. So for your, I will just translate it into English for that. No sir, so it was at that time the agents were the European sahibs. The whole day the sahib used to ride a horse, used to play golf. So Jalpaiguri at that time was having a very good European club also for that year. And he used to ride there, and then he would come in the branch to sign the general ledger. So when the country was independent, the Europeans started living. So one day the message came that he will also hand over to some Indian the charge of the branch. তো আমাকে ডাকলো, আমাকে বললো যে তখন আমার রেকর্ডসগুলো আপডেট করা হচ্ছে. So all the people who were working at that time, their HR records were being updated and he was just updating the record. तो साहिब हमसे पूछा, ए तुम्हारा उम्र कितना है? Sir, यही कोई 13-14 साल नौकरी किया. So he wrote age 13 years. So, so that's how he just for that year. So it was quite funny and interesting. But that was the bank when I entered. Very voluminous ledgers. I have seen that during my first 7-10 years of my career. And from there, the transition came. And those days, everything was everything were manual. So we had challenges, rather competition among us, that we have to give the interest on all ledgers on a particular date. That was the challenge. Then all the ledgers need to be balanced manually. So that was a challenge. So when we were doing all these things, then to our aid came I would say one instrument which was known as banking calculator. That was, I think, the first thing which came to our help for that year, by which you can do the calculations for interest posting, for balancing and others quite fast for that year. So that was the first change. Then we found that the bank introduced some ALMs, or advanced ledger posting machines. That was there. Though these were very big machines, so size of this sofa, almost half of the sofa, and they used to give the sound as if you are working in an industry, dung, 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 some sound like that from that day. Then gradually it came the bank master, when we have local servers, and the first time really a shot of digitalization took place. And from then came the CBS, and ultimately, as you have seen what Tamalda has shown, that the bank is now in your pocket. So when in 1987 I entered the bank, I really could not imagine that one day the bank will be in my pocket. That was the transition we have witnessed, and which we have witnessed in each phase of time. And as Khara sir was telling, that this transition definitely has an effect on the staff who were working. Because in the banks, when we are accustomed to do a particular thing, and when technology comes, there is always some disruption. And normally, all of us are a little bit preventive towards changes. We don't accept change so easily. And we have seen that those changes were coming. So when the computers came, as Tamalda was saying, the same experience I have seen. I was posted in overseas branch of State Bank of India. There was a computer loom, and the person who was in charge was almost, he was of my seniority only and one batch senior to me, but he behaved as the DGM of that branch. Because he has got that power, that authority. He would ask everyone, you open your shoes and then only you enter. Once I even seen that he was asking one of my colleagues that you take out your coat and then enter. So I just asked him that, is the computer also smelling? So does it have the power to smell also or not? That you've asked him to take out his coat or not for that year. So those were the days the changes came. There were so many, I would say, resistances also. So cholbe na, hobe na, computeration korte dewa jabe na, etate chakri chole jabe. So many things we have witnessed, and I was also, being a member of the union, had been a part of many such demonstrations. So for that year. So that changes we have witnessed over the years. So I would say that definitely with the changes in the technology, with the changes of the consumer behavior, the customer's behavior, today banking has evolved a lot. And today I think Tamalda will just take to the next course, the future of banking. But to tell you, it is very difficult to dream what banking would be 50 years hence. Thank you.
Thank you. So, yeah, hello. So since you are in Kolkata, this no more the days of Cholbena is over. So it's a different thing. But what you're discussing, no offense intended, nothing to do with about Kolkata or West Bengal. That was a scene everywhere. So everywhere. So please don't get the impression that it was unique to Kolkata.
That was in 90s, so everyone knows that it was a quite
let's cut back to future. We have lovely to have this to both of them from State Bank of India. Nobody from banking, nobody could have this kind of vision and view like these two gentlemen could have because of the State Bank of India background. So Khara Sahab, now coming back to looking at the future. First obvious thing is this. Do we need bankers to run the banks? Because these days of AI and ML, everything is done by technology. So there is a school of thought that, no, we don't need any more banker. We need a tech guy to run a bank. He can. In fact, Your former chairperson Arundhati in one of the this kind of program in Mumbai, she told me categorically, Tamal, I feel that no, we don't need bankers anymore. We need a tech guy. On the other hand, you have like Aditya Puri. He feels no, bankers need to be there, and he gives a very nice example. He said that I can own a Mercedes, but for that I don't necessarily need to know how to drive. I just fix a driver and is it okay? No. So similarly, we need to have bankers, people with banker knowledge, because it's dealing with money. And then always tech guys can be there with the bankers to help them out. So where do you stand?
Well, my thought is that when it comes to banking and for that matter any financial sector entity, it requires an expertise, and it is not merely the transaction which the bank does. Transaction is only one part of the story. The fact of the matter is that today when it comes to the various other requirements of the economy in terms of credit, in terms of transactions, in terms of mobilizing deposits, in terms of ensuring that there is a good amount of interest which we can offer to the customers, there is a need for banker, and also because it's a one sector which is tightly regulated across the globe. And when it is tightly regulated across the globe, and when it comes to, actually my sense is that banks are the one which are financial entities which have adopted technology. So it is actually fintech are the banks. Those who are into the technology and offering financial services, they are techfin. So whether TechFin can understand the boundary conditions, TechFin can understand the larger economy, because we have, all of us have seen that, the business and the technology. Technology is a back office and business is a front office. And unless and until business translate what they need from the technology, and if the technology only come out with a solution, the adoption with the business is not there at all. So I think when it comes to the demand raised by the business, they are very much aligned to the customer. They are understanding the customer's need, and the customer centricity is something which is helping them in terms of defining what the product should be, what the process should be, and how we can offer the value. Because today it is not merely a solution. How effective as a solution is something which we have to always keep on working. And with that in mind, there is a need, there is a relevance for the professionals, there is a need for the bankers, and more so when we are talking in terms of the global exchange of money, which means that the treasury has got a very important function to play, the forex has got a very important function to play, and technology guys can at the most offer a solution. And eventually, I believe that technology, maybe the TechFin, which I very often say, they can help you in terms of offering a solution in a very nimble-footed approach, and which means that if at all problem is defined, they can offer the solution. But the multifarious activities which are carried by the bank, I don't think a single application provider is in a position to offer all the services today. Today, banks have to also consume the services of multiple fintech players, and then only they can actually carry out their job. And similarly, when it comes to compliance requirements, etc., so they are also there. Only whether TechFins can actually come in and can substitute banks. It's not a either or. It's actually a collaborative approach. There is a need for bankers to consume the services of the TechFins, and also they have to always TechFins have to keep in thinking of how can they improve their efficiency and delivery. So that's how I look at it.
So you are saying that we need bankers at the helm, but technology is essential. So it's a matter of collaboration and cooperation. Though I'm sure all of you know, but just TechFin is different from FinTech. Like Amazon is a TechFin. Amazon is not FinTech. Amazon is TechFin. Just for the clarity. So, Sengupta sir, the same question for you. Do we need a banker to run a bank, or you think no? There's a time. Yes, bankers, of course, we need, but the helm we need a techie guy.
Yeah. So, first of all, let me just tell you that how do you define a banker? So if you say that only bankers are needed for mobilization of deposits and to give some credit decisions, which mostly can be rule-based, the answer can be no, that we may not need. But today the role of bankers are different. When we were branch managers, if I could mobilize a 50,000 rupees fixed deposits, we would immediately ring up the regional manager and say, sir, I have mobilized in one day of 50,000 rupees from one single customer, and I would have been patted. Today, no regional manager would be happy to hear the same thing from a branch manager. The role of a banker has changed from a mere deposit taker to a wealth manager. So going forward in future days, bankers need to be the wealth managers and wealth advisors for their customers. And these things cannot be solved entirely by technology. It requires human acumen, it requires human intellect, it requires to understand the risk appetite of each and every customer, and accordingly you need to advise your customer. Where you will put your wealth? 50,000, okay, 10,000 you can put in your savings bank as per the need, 20 you can put in fixed deposits, 15 in some shares, in some mutual funds, depending on the age. So if he is a 30 years old, he may be said that you put in equity. If he is a 70 years old, no, you put it in fixed deposits. So those things now, bankers need to be the wealth managers of each and every customer. So that role will change. So I have seen even one video that where a robot was, with the help of AI, was doing a heart surgery. And there was no doctor involved. Let me tell you, there was one programmer who was just doing all the things. There were 2-3 nurses. No doctor was involved, and the robot has perfectly done the surgery. But don't we need doctors? We still need doctors to assess that he has some heart problems. He needs a heart surgery. So similarly, as Khara sir has said, I fully endorse that technology cannot give the entire solutions. But yes, the role of the bankers will definitely change than what we have seen now, and in future they will become more and more and advisors to the customers.
Yeah, so we need technology, but we can't we can't move ahead without bankers, right? So now tell us now, these are all theoretical stuff we're talking about. How, till now, we just said we have banking, banks in my pocket. From branch banking, we have gone to bank banking. And of course, bank in my pocket, not the branch at entire bank. So now moving ahead, what will change for me as a customer? What can a bank do for me? For instance, just a wild thought like Digi Yatra, in airport. Now, the moment I step in, I don't need anything else, no, just my face, and I'm moving in and all. So do you think in bank branches something will happen that Dinesh Khara is walking in, and these people, the moment you walk in, something like that, they know in Gorakhpur, some village, that this is ex-SBI chairman Dinesh Khara is coming to my branch. And then they know everything. Is it like this is the way to move ahead, or what? How will technology change banking?
Yeah, actually, something of a similar sort we have attempted, because what was happening typically for a bank like State Bank of India, which deals with the customers of all hue and colors, and we deal with the smallest and the largest, everybody. So naturally, our effort was that how can we differentiate the experience of the customers who are walking in, and with that in mind, this was a pilot which we actually ran in Bombay, and we were actually trying to see that if at all, the moment the customer walks in, and if at all we can channelize him in the right direction. So that is something which we attempted. Maybe it may happen, it has not yet been industrialized, but yes, of course, it might happen also at any point of time. But nevertheless, what is being attempted today, is that with the help of analytics, with the kind of data, all this while, the data which was available with all of us was merely a static data. We were not actually playing around with that data, and we have of late, we have started using this data from the point of view of profiling the customers, and also by virtue of that, we are in a position to guide our branches on ground that how they should approach a particular customer, what should be their sales talk, and how they can actually offer an excellence in the customer experience. So that is something which has been, which is now being tried. So when it comes to analytics, is actually assuming a very significant role. It is not merely for the customer acquisition or customer experience. It is also being used from the point of view of the frauds which are happening, because we are in a position to identify the near-miss events. Near-miss events we track very closely, and our ability to track those near-miss events with the help of analytics has actually gone a long way, and it has helped the bank quite a lot. And now of late, you might be aware that there is a major issue relating to the mule accounts, and of course RBI has also come out with an app where they are helping, but we also had done some kind of a study on this. There are certain geographies which are prone to mule accounts. There are certain type of customer profiles which are prone to mule accounts. So we're in a position to now do some kind of a risk rating of the customers also with the help of the analytics. So actually speaking, analytics is becoming a very important core. Earlier we used to talk about the digitization, but I think we have moved ahead. And now with the help of technology, with the help of the analytics, we are in a position to really work out that what should be the product which we should offer, and what should be the delivery channel which we should use. Because earlier, all this was not available. It was not as scientific. Today, we know that maybe at location A, customers will only use ATMs, whereas at location B, customers will probably go for internet banking only. So accordingly, it is helping us in terms of ensuring that we allocate our resources accordingly. And if I may summarize it, I would say that we are in a position to have much better operating leverage now with the help of technology and the analytics as compared to what we have seen in the past. So because we are always having some kind of a pressure in terms of ROA, NIM, ROE. So that is the reason why, apart from the financial leverage which we do, but this operating leverage is also helping in terms of improving our bottom line.
Thanks. So once you do the capex, the investment cost, and then your cost to income ratio, etc., everything is positive because technology brings down the cost. So, Partha sir, you tell me how the banking will change. When looking forward, you said bankers are not bankers alone, they have also become your wealth managers. That's fine. But as a customer and all these people, including us, what would be our experience moving ahead? How will technology change our experience?
Yeah. So definitely technology will play a major role. As sir was just telling, the first thing is that identification of a proper customer profile. That will definitely come in the future way of banking. So one customer view will be available across all branches of a particular branch. So if a customer who is really a valuable customer, who needs to be given a special service, so technology is there by which actually when he's entering the branch, he can be identified. But even if that is not happening, when he enters a frontline desk, at least by just punching his account number or CIF number for that year, the frontline staff can come to know that yes, he is a valuable customer of the bank and across bank. That technology is definitely going to help in this way, number one. Number two is that the new technology that will give the customer delight or more customer satisfaction is, as what sir has said, that the customer's banking needs should be initiated by the bank itself. So there are hundreds of products, but a particular customer may be needing only 10. And the analytics will be so strong that it will define those 10 products that he needs. And it has already started. Let me share one simple experiment. When I was CGM of this state, Kolkata Circle, for that year, we tried to promote home loans, housing loans. And we asked one of the modules that you send SMS to your customers. And through our system, we just sent thousands of SMS to the customers. Customers were coming to the branch, 80% were found not eligible for a home loan. It actually was creating customer dissatisfaction. Many customers said that you have only invited me through a SMS, that visit your branch, visit the branch manager, and now you are just saying that you are not eligible for the home loan. Then why have you sent the SMS? And then the analytics, later it came for that year, we introduced analytics. The analytics detected some 120, 130 customers in that particular region for that year. And out of 130, 100 almost came to the various branches, and we found that almost 84 or 85 are eligible for home loans. So that is one technology is definitely going to help the bankers to give a precise decision, which is still absolutely, I would say, a little bit haphazard. That is the one thing. The third will come, the technology help to the bankers is, you all know that today, as we are going more online, we are going more digital, we are equally facing the risk of cyber threats, cyber frauds, and all those associated risks. So this again, the technology, lot of technological developments are happening. Banks are gradually adopting them. I think once these are all adopted and put into practice, the risk from cyber threats or cyber securities from the day, that will also come down to a large extent. Fourth is definitely the communication. As sir was telling, B2B and B2C, it will be much more precise, much more directed, much more business oriented towards that specific needs and goals for the team. So technology will also come with various models also by which you can actually make a real assessment of the risk appetite of a customer, which is very much needed once you want to give some advice to those customers. So definitely we cannot, I would say, bypass technology, or rather we have to embrace the technologies and the technological development. So going forward, again, I see that there will be a partnership banking, a collaborative banking between the banks and the fintechs, the banks and the tech fins. So there will be a lot of participation. Instead of being competitors to each other, there should be a lot of collaboration between the various sectors in the banking area for that year. That is where the banking will move forward.
Thanks, Sab. So essentially you were saying that the identification of customer and treating them. Incidentally, a very large health insurance firm now, it sends a app, and if you download the app and you just look at the app, your basic health checkup already done on the spot. So you get to know, and the advantage of the particular insurance firm also, that they also get to know what's your blood pressure, high or low, what's your sugar, what's your etc., everything. So it's pretty interesting. Now let's come back to a very recent phenomenon. We are talking about future, but immediate future, not so distant future. Is this, you are struggling, you meaning the bankers are struggling to get bank deposits, because what Uday Kotak calls repeatedly the financialization. Now, post-COVID, we are seeing that how the money is getting into stock market directly or through mutual fund, barring the last few months since October. People were so gung-ho about everything. So it is not real estate and gold anymore. Gold, of course, continues to be, and every year. So money is not coming to bank at all. And to some extent, you yourself is responsible for this, because you have told your branch managers for the fee income. So if I am coming in and if I have little bit of money in the bank, your guy forces me to channel it to mutual fund, etc., etc. Now, what would mutual fund do? Mutual fund, when they are not investing, they are keeping the same money with the bank. So you are getting the same money back to you, but at a much higher rate. You are you need to put in the CD, the certificate of deposits, where I could have probably getting 7%, you are paying 8.75 or 9% for CDs, and that to maximum 1 year. I think banks cannot take more than one CD, more than 1 year long CD and all. So essentially, getting deposit is a problem, liquidity is a problem. RBI is concerned about high CD ratio, and if you don't have money, you cannot lend. So, I mean, what is the way, immediate future, how would the bank tackle this?
Yeah, I think this is one area which is, of course, engaging. It's actually a concern for the system also. But nevertheless, before coming to the answer to your question, I would like to elaborate that when it comes to the deposit creation in the economy, uh, see, there is a, I looked at it in terms of the data from what is the composition of the retail deposit, what is the composition of the corporate deposit in the overall banking scenario. So, and I compared it with pre-COVID, how it has moved. So actually speaking, as far as the retail depositors deposit is concerned, it used to be somewhere around 63% in the pre-COVID stage, and it has come to about 61%. And when it comes to the government deposit, which used to be about 14% of the total deposit of the system, it has come to about 9%. And where it has actually grown, it has grown in the corporate deposit. It has moved up from 10% to about 18% of the total deposit. So there are two things. One is when it comes to the ability of the banks to lend, that is actually determined by the quality of the deposit which they are keeping with them. If at all they are keeping more retail deposit, they can lend to the extent of about 77% of the deposit. If they are keeping wholesale deposit, they can lend only to the extent of 55% of the deposit. And it's a established fact that, this loan creation creates deposits. The other aspect which I would like to touch upon is that when it comes to M0, M0 is actually growing at about 5% or so, 5.4 or so. Whereas in the past it has grown as high as about 18%. Actually, M0 multiplied by the multiplier will give the M3. So that is how it really works. But today what has happened is the multiplier has gone up, and thanks to the digital economy, multiplier has certainly gone up. But M0 growth is something which RBI was also very much focused in terms of containing the inflation. They wanted to keep the M0 growth very, very minimal. And that is the other reason why the economy per se, of course, a lot is being talked about that, bank money moving to the mutual fund, etc. But that is only one part of the story, which is actually very insignificant. But yes, of course, from the optics point of view, it is something which is seen very, very clearly. But the fact of the matter is that these are the other contributing reasons why we are into this kind of a scenario. Having said,
including government not keeping money.
yeah, including government money also, what is happening is because government deposit which has come down, that is essentially attributed to the just in time. So essentially to address the fiscal concerns and to address the monetary concerns, it is by design this has been done like that. So I think this is something which is a macro level situation we will have to probably live with. We will not be in a position to change much. But yes, when it comes to the bank level efforts means that, as I mentioned, that the bank's ability to create deposit is a function of the quality of the deposit which they are keeping. If at all they are keeping wholesale deposit, they will be in a position to lend only 55% of that deposit. And if at all they are keeping retail deposit, it's 77%. And now to win those customers, essentially retail customers, the way forward is to offer the customer what they need. And when you have to offer the customer what they need, they may not be, today with the informed society which is there, they may not be confining themselves to the bank deposit only. They would probably need insurance, they will probably need mutual fund. They will also like to see if at all bank can offer some kind of wealth management services where they can shift money from one asset class to another asset class. So these are the kind of things which will probably help the banks, whosoever will be in a position to offer the multiple services, they will be in a position to win the customers. That's how I look at it.
Mr. Sengupta, so State Bank of India's CASA, which is low cost current and savings bank, I think about 39% at this point of time as we speak. 39%, yes. So, okay, I'm correct. And you are so conjuice, you meaning your bank. 2.7%, can you imagine? In this market, State Bank of India offers just 2.7% CASA. So it's sort of cartelization, and most public sector banks are that. I was going through it between 2.7 and 2.9. Yes.
I would like to mention.
Keep the mics on, please. Just don't put it off and on. Tell me so that we can eat.
To mention that when it comes to CASA, the current account and savings account, on the face of it, the cost is only 2.7.
Yep.
But the fact of the matter is today, when it comes to the savings bank account, you are offering the salary package account where you are offering insurance free, you are offering transactions free, you are offering ATM card free. For practically all services, you are charging nothing. So that is also actually a cost.
The hidden cost, yeah. That's the standard practice and all. But the fact is, public sector banks, they take advantage of the perception that their government backing is there. My money, I don't have to bother about DICGC cover up to 5 lakh. I can give 5 crore also. Nothing will happen to me. So 2.7 to 2.9, that's the thing. Look at this gentleman. I was getting out of the airport, 8.5 to senior citizens. Yeah. That's what, 8.5. Just imagine. And your savings bank, how much you offer? 7% or something for up to certain level?
Yeah.
Yes.
8% also.
Just imagine, 7% for savings account. This bank is offering. I'm just getting publicity for you, kind of thing and all. So, so anyway, so tell us, what is the way forward, the future? Where do you see? I mean.
So I think the problem, everyone is concerned about it. But as Sir was telling, that I think mutual fund is only a part. The first thing is that let us understand that the country is gradually evolving and is becoming economically stronger, and much awareness has come among the countrymen regarding their financial needs and whatever the returns they can make. So it is no more a very plain vanilla system going to the bank and put all your money. Let us accept this, that this trend will continue now because the stock market has come down, but as soon as it goes up, again the same thing will happen. What is more concerned is the CD ratio, the credit deposit ratio. In India, the money markets, the other money markets are not so dependent like in the Western countries or in the developed countries. We need to have much more developed money countries, money markets, which should actually cater to the needs of the corporates. Today, a large part of the deposits are being utilized to finance the corporates, even the big developmental projects. That is largely financed by the banks. The infrastructure projects, the ports, the airports, the roads, highways, everything is financed by the banks. That scheme of financing, according to me, of course it is my absolute personal view, need to have a change. We need to have much more developed money markets, much more deepening money markets, by which actually the corporates at least can fulfill most of their credit needs than to approach the banks. If that happens, the CD ratio would become much, much more comfortable. This is one. To address the other part of it, that yes, some banks are offering much lower deposits, and banks like Bandhan, who are emerging banks. We are just 10 years old, and our CBS has stabilized only for a year. So sometimes I jokingly said we are actually 1 year old bank for that year. So we need to grow, and for the growth, we need to have deposits. So, and the number two is our business pattern. You see, because we were more into the microfinance segment where we are giving unsecured loans to those people for that. So whatever the things, if you want to fulfill their demands, I need certain quantum of money, and that can only come, the only differentiation becomes the interest rate, for which banks like us definitely gives a little bit more. But maybe with the recent changes that have come in the last NPC and going forward, what were the trends are there, maybe we also have to rework at our deposits rate, but that is a different part. But the main part is that deposits accretion to the banks directly from the retail segment is probably will be much more moderated, as I've told for that year, because people would also like to put their monies into the other areas like mutual funds, equities. The youngsters, they put in directly in the equities or even in government bonds and others. So definitely that will have an impact. The second thing, the government, as sir has told, you see now most of the government schemes are directly coming through the treasury. Previously, there was a bank in between. Money used to come from the central government, rested in the banks from that year, from where the state governments would have withdrawn and then distributed among the various channels. Now, that thing is almost, in most of the states, 70 to 80% of the major schemes where the deposit mobilizations were there, like various funds were there for that. They are directly now coming from the RBI's accounts to the state and state to the RBI's accounts. So the banks are bypassed, and that is why the deposit percentage has come down from 14 to 9%. And going forward, more such thing will happen. So even if the government releases cash, may not enter, thing will accrue to the bank's deposits. But there are definitely some positive points. The first is that digitalization is taking at a very rapid pace, and banks are playing a major role. So more and more as we go forward, the less dependence on cash will be there. There will be more dependence on the bank's accounts. So definitely there would be some accretion in deposits for that. So the RBI CBDT, what they have just now, I would say that the direct, whatever they're introduced for this online transfers and all these things for the digital banking, RBI has recently introduced. I think that is also going to play a major role for that. But yes, deposit mobilization continues to be a challenge for all the banks. But at the same time, if we can address the need of the corporate sector through some other credit means, this will definitely give a much more comfortable zone for the banks.
Thank you, Mr. Sengupta. So, as you speak, I am aware, I will not name quite a few banks. They are all in the search of consulting agencies, to help them how to garner deposits, finding ways, new strategies and all. As you said, that digitization is actually would help banks to get deposits, but the other side of it, it also, it can play havoc, because overnight you can see the money already left bank, which happened to US Silicon Valley Bank. So that's the other side of digitization. But what you said, Mr. Sengupta, is very important and critical, is this: we also need to develop the right kind of corporate bond market, like the developed market, so that the corporation's need does not necessarily need to be fulfilled only by the banking system. We are still in that era. Coming back to a very hot subject is this. When I speak to in my interaction with bankers, almost every banker, not public sector, but primarily private sector banks, said that the biggest challenge is, even bigger challenge than deposit mobilization or technology, is retaining people. He said, we have never seen this kind of HR scenario. I don't need to name, anybody, they're all listed entities, you will see that 55%, 58%, I think one particular large private bank, 60% plus people leaving every year. And they are saying that we really do not know how to retain people. Where there are opportunities. I mean, bankers does not necessarily need to be wedded to a bank. It can get to fintech, it can go to techfin, it can go to consumer finance, anywhere and everywhere. So is it a genuine thing or is it an exaggeration? Numbers are genuine. 40%, 45%, 50%, 55%, even 60% plus. That's the amount of people leaving in the private sector banks. And they are all grappling with the idea this is the biggest thing, and this problem will stay because of the opportunities, because of the change in the approach of this new generation, whatever you call it, there are many names and all. And they said that you can't retain them only with money, because they need to be challenged, they need to have that kind of job, you need to have them flexibility from where they work. There are many, many issues. As we speak, some of them already introduced, not in the banking segment, but non-banking finance segment, that like you choose which day you want to take off, you choose from where, how many days you want to work from home or anywhere else. So all kind of new things are coming up. So how do you see the future on the HR space?
No, what you mentioned is essentially is a reflection of the mindshare and the expectation of the young employees when they join the bank. So I think there's a need for coming out with a very clear and articulation on behalf of the management of the bank in terms of what is the path which is available to them. So naturally, what you mentioned in terms of they are looking for some kind of a depth in the role, they're looking for some kind of a variety which should be available to them. And of course, they're looking for all the conveniences. But of course, maybe everything may not be, they may not be in a position to meet out, particularly when it comes to convenience and particularly when it comes to work from home. Because majority of the banks have got the customer facing roles, and in those customer facing roles, they probably cannot have the situation where they can offer work from home. And we have seen that all those entities which are offering significant facility in terms of work from home, even they are also withdrawing those facilities across the globe. It is not only for India. So I think that is something which perhaps there is a need for toning down that expectation also at the other end. But that I think is something which the organizations will have to really work on. To my mind, because what is happening is that in many of these banks, what is happening is that they are at times they don't have adequate exposure and they are put on in a particular role where they are not adequately equipped, and then it actually generates a bit of a frustration. So I think there is a need for investing in the training. There is a need for upgrading their skill set. There is a need to they must get themselves acclimatized in the environment. Unless and until they acclimatize in the environment, they will probably be fish out of water always. So I think with that kind of a scenario, those who have started investing in training, they are probably in a position to reap the benefit of that. Those who are still not there, they are facing a huge attrition rate, which is of course a matter of concern. And actually speaking, it's a huge investment which is going waste every year, though it is not getting reflected in the balance sheet. But yes, of course, every year, if at all, there's so much of a churn, that very clearly means that they are not getting the skilled manpower and they are not in a position to have the optimum productivity of the employees as well. So I think it's not merely the physical training, it can also be the tutors, tutorials which are available online. So various kind of things which can be adopted, and there's something which at State Bank of India when we did, we have seen the outcome of that.
Yeah, Mr. Sengupta, I repeat, this is a phenomenon for the private banks. Public sector, I will not call it a cushy job. It's very strenuous. It's very difficult. But the job security is there. People normally leave. What would be a typical public sector's ratio of maybe a 5%?
When it comes to attrition, is less than 5%. It's less about 2% or so.
Less than 5%. As I said, private sector, it can.
It happens. There also we have analyzed. But there also it is happening only at a very early stage. People normally leave till about 5 years of the service.
Okay.
After that, they don't leave. Once they are into that, because they have already tasted the flavor of the variety which they will be exposed to. And also, in public sector bank, one major obligation is in terms of the rural service liability.
Sure.
By that time, that rural service liability is also behind them. So I think those who have done that, they are behind, up the hump.
In private sector, if you are in the 30s attrition rate, you are very happy. You just say, with a thumping chest, ours is only 33% or 35%. Incidentally, what is yours, sir?
Yeah, I fully agree that.
What is yours, sir? And your attrition
mine rate? At various levels. So senior management level will not be there, but I have got as you know, that huge people employed in the micro segment where the attrition rate is more than 35%.
Okay.
So for
that, tell me, what
Yes.
needs to be done?
So
After this, we will take a couple of questions from the audience because we have another 10-12 minutes left. Is that okay, Vivek? Sir, quick.
I think this is a very tricky question and very challenging for a CEO of any private sector bank. The first thing is that the HR concept in private sector, what I feel, because I am coming from a public sector background, is that it was basically a recruiting department. almost it is true for all banks that public sector say double the salary or whatever they say. We just take many people initially and then poaching from the various other private sector banks. So first thing is that no other bank, especially small banks like us, really have made or worked for the development of our HR, I would say, area in the way that the public sector banks have done. So because I'm coming from SBI's background, I know that how strong is the training system and how quickly they upskill the people. People, even if they leave it, I immediately get a replacement from my own resources. Here, I am unable to get, let me tell you very frankly. If suddenly some position people leave, I will again have to go to the market and search for some person. I have not built my resource from within my resources, a person who will be capable to lead the bank or take that. So proper career planning is definitely one of the areas where the HR now need to be more focused. Because initially it was thought that money is the only solution. But we have found that even highly paid people also, they also leave the organization because they have their other aspirations. Now I need to put before them a proper goal path that yes, this is your career path, you can grow up to this in my organization. So that we need to work on it. Number two is that in certain areas like we have found in micro segment area for that year, we need to, our salaries are not, I would say, like a bank for that year. Because these areas work on a different model, the cost is high and we have to contain the cost. So the attrition rate is also there at the end for the day. So we are also trying to work that how can we actually make them a banker. So this segment we were just only in microfinance for that year. So we can evolve them and we can extract more from them. Then we can also pay them more. So that is also another area where I think we are looking at. I think that is the challenge in many of the banks that in the entry level, at the entry level, many private sector banks do not pay even like the public sector banks. The entry level salary of a public sector bank is more in many cases than a private sector bank. So that also I think need to have a clear-cut solution. So HR and lastly is the training and upskilling, which is very, very important, very, very important. So banks like us, we did not have the resource to spend much on training for that. So now we have started doing it as we evolve, as we go much more older. Definitely we need to take the talent from our own staff. So there are challenges. I feel none of the banks, especially the private sector banks, are insulated from this because, again, the country is rising, as I have told for that year. So 5 years back, there were only the bankers that were absorbing them, but now the fintech companies are absorbing them, the tech fin companies are absorbing them, the various MFIs are absorbing them, the NBFCs are absorbing them. So there are huge opportunities for these people. So salary cannot be the only solution, I do admit. We need to have a proper career plan for them. We need to have some sort of a training and upskilling of them. And you need to also have our HR need to continuously engage with them so that their aspirations can be accomplished to a large extent. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Sengupta. Always you are very candid. So we could have spent 1 more hour or so or more, but I can't stand between lunch and you for too long. So any question from audience? Yeah, this gentleman, yeah, please quickly, sir. Just make it very short. Can he get this thing or not? To whom you are asking, just one-line question. I have one question.
Hello.
One-line answer.
No, I would leave that to you to direct 2 questions. One is, do we need these many number of banks in India, so many PSBs and so many private sectors?
Yes,
and the State Bank of India being the largest bank, what are the disadvantages in SBI being the largest bank, still not being able to compete with some of the global banks? What is your experience?
Right, sir.
And second point is there any stipulation in the banking sector that how much of the money from the banking system can flow into the capital markets? Because this is a thought I picked up from your speech. Is there any stipulation on that particular point?
Capital market
Yeah, because see,
is there.
Yeah,
Anyway,
if banks are investing in the equities,
Sure.
the money is actually going into the capital markets.
Done, sir. So, well, anyway, just hold on. Here is one gentleman raised. Please, yeah, just then we'll take the question together. Okay. Just 1 second. Get the mic quickly. Make it very brief and just one line answer kind of thing, and then we'll go back to one line.
Sir, my one line question is like, I am working with banks very closely. So only difference I feel between PSU bank and private bank is our manpower difference. Since sir mentioned private banks pay their employees, starting level employees, very less money, whereas PSUs pays higher amount of money. So this gap, due to lack of manpower, I think service issues are there in PSU's bank. Otherwise, I think PSU's bank will be the leading bank in India or
Okay,
in the
but
globe.
that's a comment. That's not a question. Anybody else? This gentleman. I'm sorry, we can't. Anyway, just quickly, just get one. So thank you, but that's a comment, right? There's no question. So there's no question.
Just quick question, sir. We have talked about data and analytics. There was a RBI requirement for having CIBIL in 2003. CIBIL was made, PSUs were made shareholders, and then TransUnion, a vendor, purchased the company CIBIL and now controlling all the data. So is it correct in ethical way the PSU banks selling their shares and selling all the data to a US-based company?
Okay.
So if you can have
Yes,
light
sir.
on that.
Yeah. There's one gentleman. Yeah, we can't afford to say no. He's a big economist. Yes. Come on, Dr. Sanyal. Yeah, your question.
Come on. Sir, very quick question. That Indians are very good in data science analytics, this area. Very good in technology related area. Great at public digital infrastructure. Is it legitimate to have an aspiration that Indian banking will foray more into global banking area, get more mind share and wallet share from the global area in the coming future, in the next 5-10 years? I am mindful that there is quite a bit of protectionism, but still this is the question.
Thank you. So 4 questions, sir. 2 each you can take. Question number 1 is this: do we need so many banks?
Considering the size of the economy and the way it is growing, there is a room for more banks also. We are also already seeing that the small finance bank have gotten aspirations to become the full commercial banks. So I think there is a room, and I would say that there are multiple niche area which can be addressed by the banks who are coming into play. The second question which you had said about the
exposure to market.
Exposure to market, and also why we are not comparable to global banks. I think when it comes to global banks, actually one has to keep in mind that the balance sheet in India is all denominated in rupee. If at all you will do the purchasing power parity, perhaps many of our banks will also feature in the global banks. State Bank of India itself is among the top 50, even when it is all denominated in terms of dollar. Global balance sheets are all denominated in dollars, and Indian balance sheets are denominated in rupee. So I think it is more of a currency related issue than the size of the bank. Size of the banks probably are eligible to be into the global banks. One more question.
Two more questions. He can take it if it's okay. One is that the data, PSU banks are supplying data to overseas, etc. That is one question. And other question was market exposure. Capital exposure. Yeah.
So as regarding capital market, it comes under the sensitive sector and requires lot of, I would say, credit risk mitigation measures, and for this, because you know that after all the banks, they are taking the money from the depositors which they cannot fail, whereas capital markets witness a lot of volatility, lot of fluctuations. So each bank has its own policy regarding how much they can actually invest or how much they can give loans to against these capital related instruments for the day. So that will depend from bank to bank, but it is also very highly regulated and monitored by Reserve Bank of India. Every month we have to give the data to advances to the sensitive sectors to the RBI also. So beyond a certain limit, I think the regulator will also not allow you to breach for the day.
Earlier it was 5%, I think.
5%, yes.
And now it's a board driven. Yeah?
Other aspect is also because whatever exposure is there to the capital markets, it is subject to RW of 100%.
Correct.
So
That
when
is
it
also-
comes to the efficiency of the capital, perhaps it does not justify.
Okay, absolutely.
So each bank has its own policy
Ajay,
and they accordingly.
Sengupta sir, last question is this about the data, leaking data to other things and all. I don't know whether you want to answer that.
So this is something tricky and a policy-related question. The thing is that RBI also keep a close watch on this, and now CIBIL, this has been promoted by all the public sector banks. The purpose is only to make all the regulated entities and all those who are in the financial markets aware of the credit score of a person or an institution or an organization. So that is the basic purpose. So data has to go into this system. There is no other option, no other way, because unless the banks gives the correct data, it cannot be disseminated for taking credit decisions. So this is the way how the data goes from each and every bank to all these CICs. So whether
Thank
it
you.
is CIBIL or
Thank you.
others for that year. But
Thank you, Mr.
I think that is well moderated and well regulated by the government also.
Thank you, Sengupta.
I have to only supplement by saying that when it comes to civil ownership, what you were talking about, from TransUnion, it is moving out. See, the point is that all these commercial banks actually step in when the infrastructure institutions are getting created, because otherwise nobody creates those institutions. So once those institutions are created, thereafter they are allowed to have a fair play. And whether data is domiciled, it has to be domiciled within India. That is something which is a function of the regulator to oversee and ensure that it should happen. So for that, the SEBI and the RBI both, in fact, for this, it would be actually RBI and SEBI both will be actually looking at it, and it is for them to ensure it is actually falling into their remit.
Sir, one question and one line answer. This is the last round. Nothing about future of banking, but future of this room, future of CS. Okay, so being the ex-chairman of State Bank of India and you also, big bankers and all, just one line, your advice, suggestion, or looking at the future, what is your one line to this community of CS who are here and who has actually invited you for the host?
Thank you very
One line
much.
each.
Well, to my mind, one has to keep on updating oneself as far as the knowledge is concerned, the way the ecosystem is evolving. When one qualifies the chartered accountancy and when actually one practices, there is a huge difference. And in the course of the things, there are many opportunities which come up. All of us have seen, as we have described, how the banking has evolved. Similarly, the profession of chartered accountancy has also evolved. One has to keep on updating oneself.
So first, let me acknowledge that I have learned a lot from the CS in State Bank of India because I was continuously interacting with them. But my only advice is that know the regulations, know the laws of the country, the statutory things for the team, and be a good advisor to the banks. That's the only thing.
Thank you. So we have exceeded by 6 minutes. With your permission, I'm taking just 1 more minute or 1.5 minutes to. I don't want to summarize because everything is known. Just to say that I don't know. I'm sure everybody will agree with me. Banking is a business is absolutely different from anything and everything. You know, you look at, say, you are making soap. How many ingredients come in and then the soap comes? Look at making cement. How many ingredients come in? But banking is banks are the only factory in the world where the raw material and the finished product is the same. Have you ever noticed that? Same. Your money comes to me as a bank and I give it to somebody else. That's it, nothing. I just do the packaging. I mean, your money comes in the form of savings or current or FDs or CDs or whatever it is, and your money goes in the form of home loan and auto loan and mortgage and corporate loan and unsecured loan, etc., etc., etc. But that's the uniqueness. Also, uniqueness is about the risk associated and the leverage. So they are the people. I am a learner. I am a student. But we look. It's a fascinating world. It keeps on evolving. And as you said, what happened in the 90s all over India, and now we never would have thought of that we will come to this. And probably during our lifetime, we would just sitting at home, we'll be sitting at home and we just said, Alexa, get me my money, and I'll get that money at home. Or Alexa, put the money there, and the money will be there. So if you like this, this discussion, what you have. Just give them a big hand because they have got their time and all. Thank you, sir. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
After this insightful session, now I would like to call CA Sakshi Jajaria for formal vote of thanks.
What an engaging session it was, and all I can say is that I'm honored and privileged to share the stage for these few minutes with the OGs of banking. Can we please have a big round of applause? Mr. Khara and Mr. Sengupta have very rightly highlighted the importance of collaboration and cooperation with technology and AI, and I think as chartered accountants also, we need to keep upskilling, keep upgrading, and keep learning more about all of this. So I would like to also thank our moderator for this insightful session, taking us through the past and future of banking. Mr. Bantopadhyay, I think what I have also learned from you is the art of storytelling, and I'm sure the audience would agree that we could all visualize their experiences so well. Even with our reduced attention span, I think we were all with the panel, which is a testimony of such an insightful and engaging session. So thank you so much. I would now like to request the dignitaries and the audience to please join us for lunch, and the next session would begin sharp at 2:15 p.m. Thank you.